Hello and welcome to the Public Interest. I'm Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for joining us again this week. We continue to approach election day, general and regional election 2015. And of course, you would know by now that youths in our nation are playing a big role in this election. And we believe that they have already conformed to the policies and principles of a Partnership for National Unity, Alliance for Change. With me is the presidential candidate of a Partnership for National Unity, Alliance for Change, Brigadier the Honorable David Granger. And I also must remind you that he's also the leader of the People's National Congress Reform. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Malika.
Great. There has been an overwhelming support coming from the youth population for this coalition, for what is hoped, what we hope will be the next government of Guyana. That means, obviously, that the PPPC would have lost out, that's the current government, would have lost out on the youth vote. Why do you believe that happened, sir?
Well, there are two reasons. One is that a Partnership for National Unity and the Alliance for Change together have consistently advance youth issues, and we are committed to making life better for young people at every level that a young person would be concerned about. So there's much to hope for. On the other hand, looking backwards, we've had over 2 decades of People's Progressive Party civic administration in which equally consistently the PPP has, I would say, shot itself in the foot. It has ignored youth issues and failed to offer youths any prospect of independence, any prospect of comfort in Guyana. So on the one hand, APNU and AFC are forward-looking, and we are confident that the young people understand that we can give them a good life. And on the other hand, the PPP has a reputation and a record of failure for over 2 decades, and has done nothing really to transform the lives of youth significantly. So when a young person looks at the prospect of general and regional elections in 2015, this is what he sees. He sees a bright future and a dark.
The problems facing the youth in Guyana are overwhelming. I know, sir, some time ago you did describe it as youths in crisis in Guyana, but to be specific, one of the things that the youths would have complained about in the last 2 decades would have been the fact that they don't have satisfying careers. How will APNU AFC address that?
Well, I believe the basis of any satisfying career is the education system. And in Guyana, the state is largely responsible for the public education system. There's only one university, that is University of Guyana, which is state supported, but inadequately so. And there's only one teachers training college, the Sierra College of Education. There are numerous secondary schools, but the state owns most of the secondary schools, and of course the primary and nursery schools are largely in the hands of the state. So when the state system fails, we feel that the careers of young people will be jeopardized. In this particular instance, we would like to see in APNU and AFC, we would like to see a system in which young persons could enter nursery, graduate to primary, qualify to enter into secondary school, and the bulk of them can go into university. We feel that in this century, the 21st century, this new millennium, people have to be exposed to all 4 levels of education. But right now in Guyana, there are over 6,000 dropouts from primary and secondary alone. So instead of having a pyramid in which the best continue to rise, we have a sort of flattening out in which a very large number of people never get past primary or never get past secondary school. And if the University of Guyana fails, it means that there is going to be, I would call, for want of a better expression, a cycle of ignorance. That is, they will not be able to train competent lecturers at Sierra College of Education who wouldn't be able to produce competent teachers, and so it will go on. So I would say that the heart of the problem, the education problem, the heart of the career problem, is solving the problems at the University of Guyana. And this would have a knock-on effect on all other elements in the education system.
Before we come to the top, the University of Guyana, you have always complained, and this is not just a complaint, it's a fact, that there are so many dropouts, so many children dropping out of the school system. How will you fix that?
Well, it starts with the way we envisage or conceptualize schools. One, we need good teachers, and we need sufficient number of teachers at all levels, trained teachers, and this is one of the reasons why I've said publicly that we must do something to attract the best quality people into the teaching profession. And I have actually proposed that teachers must be the best paid public servants. The heart of education is the teaching. We also need to provide better infrastructure, good schools with good laboratories, good lavatories, good libraries, and good furniture. And we feel that once these elements are in place, we are likely to have a better quality of student and what I will call the virtuous cycle. Right now there's a vicious cycle because of the absence of teachers, the absence of furniture, you know, inadequate schools, people are leaving. But I believe if you have good teachers, good facilities, people would be prepared to come into the education system and qualify. So let us start a virtuous cycle by having good teachers and providing more resources to education. But let me add something. The government, I believe, knows what is wrong. That is why last year they embarked on this cash grant program. Mm-hmm. It sounds like a good idea, but it is in fact very inadequate. Because I've been visiting many hinterland communities, particularly those in riverine areas, and what they need is not a cash grant. Because that cash grant will be finished in a week or two. What they need is a good school boat. People on the highways and those living far from their schools would need school buses. So money would be well spent in making sure that every child gets to school. That is going to contribute to this virtuous cycle of keeping children in school until they qualify. Before
we come to the issue of unemployment, some of the ordinary, for want of a better word, the ordinary supporters of the PPPC may want to say that while you're saying this, the government has spent so much money. Of course, recently we had government spending more than $83 million, I think, was on a simple nursery school. How would you try to convince these people that, look, that is not necessarily helping our nation's youth?
Well, it is part of the solution. Obviously, we need schools, but it is, as the saying goes in economics, it is necessary but not sufficient. It is necessary to spend money, but sometimes in spending that money, you need to make sure that the money is well spent. In other words, you know, you have to look at the amount you pay to contractors. You have to look at the siting of schools, you have to look at transport and other facilities. I would like to see a school with playgrounds, with IT laboratories, with libraries. And there's no point spending millions of dollars and then the school starts to crack up because it's badly constructed or some of the facilities are missing and children are reluctant to go or stay in the school. I know, I've seen several schools in the hinterland which the parents have locked up because they're unsafe. I've seen a school in the Pomeroon River which gets flooded every spring tide. So it is not how much you spend, but how you're spending that money that matters.
All right, let's talk about the unemployment crisis. Is the situation in Guyana, is it that there are no jobs or there are no jobs to suit the qualifications of the young persons that we have coming out of even secondary school and the University of Guyana?
Well, for many people, they're one and the same. People who receive a certain type of education expect a certain type of employment. And there must be some expectation on the part of the students that they will find employment within their field. What we do need in Guyana is a change in the philosophy of education so that more youngsters, more students are encouraged to go into fields of science. Because we have to develop roads and bridges, stellings, we have to develop highways and other forms of infrastructure. It means that we must put more emphasis on training persons as scientists, as engineers, as mathematicians, as in technology and other fields. Similarly, we have abundant land which can produce more food. It is true that in many areas of the hinterland, children are leaving the farms to look for urban employment or to work in the mines or the timber grants, which creates a problem because they're not producing enough food. So we need to look at the education system and make sure that it is more closely related to the needs of the communities and the country as a whole. And in that way, I feel we'll be able to satisfy the needs of young people for gainful employment, for satisfactory employment. Right now, there's a mismatch between what children are educated to do in schools and what they probably need to do when they leave schools as either secondary school or even university again. I've seen cases in which children with several CXC passes, good passes too, are obliged to work in pizza shops or do some other form of work which they feel is unsuitable. You may argue that, hey, all labor is honorable, but I think people expect better.
All right. Sir, let's talk about young people in leadership roles and young people who want to get involved in politics and in government. In the last 2 decades, we've seen a situation whereby most young people would have been afraid to come out and say, well, look, I'm a PNC supporter, or I'm an APNU supporter, or I'm an AFC supporter, because fear of victimization from the current government. How can you guarantee young people that under a David Granger APNU AFC administration, they would be free to actually choose which government which political party they probably want to be involved in that can propel them into leadership roles?
Well, this is exactly what the APNU and AFC are about. We are about democracy. We are about freedom of choice. And by the very fact that we are a 6-party coalition means that we do offer young people choices. And the very fact that we have committed ourselves to establish a government of national unity means that we are prepared to embrace people of all ethnicities, all religions, all geographical areas, all strata in society. So it is embedded in our philosophy that there will be national unity, there will be greater equality, and there will be an elimination of the sort of discrimination that is preventing young people from achieving their goals in life. This is one of the byproducts of the present winner-takes-all system, in which one party wins and those people who oppose, will find it difficult to get jobs or are forced to migrate. Well, the time for that has come to an end. I've met a lot of victims of discrimination, and I just want to assure them that there will be a place in Guyana for every qualified person.
All right. Now, to talk about programs that would actually propel them into becoming good leaders, and these are youth programs. Are you satisfied with the youth programs that we would have seen coming from the current administration in the last 2 decades?
Not at all. To start with, the government has failed to even promulgate a comprehensive national youth strategy or youth policy. So nobody knows where they're going. It reminds you of the old saying, when you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So there's been a lack of direction, a lack of purposefulness because of the lack of a youth policy. And I think this has had a terrible effect on young people because there's been no guidance from government. Government has also ignored, things like International Year for Youth. They seem to pay no attention to the things which youth are really interested in. For example, the development of sports on a countrywide basis, not a few elite sports. I'm talking about a countrywide basis. So I can go to any region, any one of the 10 regions, and see that there is real program for youth development. So when you look at every aspect of culture, youth, sport, even education and training, you do not see that purposefulness which can lead our country forward.
You've been quoted as saying in the past that happy people don't kill themselves. Suicide is another problem plaguing our youth. Obviously, they're not happy because they're killing themselves. In just about 30 seconds before we have to go, how will an APNU AFC coalition government make young people happy?
Well, it is our view that to start with, people need good education. Education is not just a matter of learning to read and write, it's also about the inculcation of values. And we feel that the school, along with the home and the masjid or the church or the mandir, will help to promote those values. We feel also that society must be more supportive of young people. Right now, we speak of young people and old people. We're one society, and this is how we must move forward. We also need to ensure that young people are given the type of employment which would make them ready to have families. You need a sound basis. People want to have a home and maybe a car, and they want to bring up children. These things require money. So a good career, is the basis of the type of satisfying life. Good education, good employment, and I feel people who are involved in relationships will not want to kill themselves.
Thank you very much, sir, and a perfect note for us to put a wrap on it. Of course, this has been another edition of The Public Interest with me, the presidential candidate and leader of the People's National Congress Reform. He's the presidential candidate for APNU AFC Coalition and the leader of the People's National Congress Reform, Brigadier the Honorable David Granger. I am Malika Ramsey. Thanks for watching, and do join us again next time. Goodbye.